Today's part 2 of the miter saw station build. I added a bunch more cabinets to the shop and I got the foundation for the miter saw station. And I'm going to show you how you can use the modular cabinets to customize your own shop and give you some examples. I started off by taking down all my lumber so that I could move the lumber racks and make way for those upper cabinets. All right, you can really start to get a feel for what this is going to look like, the 13 feet, and that's the great thing about the modular cabinet system that I'm using. So these cabinets right now are all 30 inches. So using the modular cabinets, I'm upgrading from 60 to 75 inches of cabinets on the left and having 60 inches of cabinets to the right with a space in the middle for the miter saw. I'm going to show you some other setups as we go through the video, and they're all based on the modular cabinet designs. I'm going to jump in and start building this 4-drawer cabinet. I'm going to hit some of the highlights because we got a lot of cabinets to build today, but I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks and thoughts on it, but I'm going to kind of buzz over those that I've already got videos on. Now let's go ahead and jump into the building. I'm ready for assembly of the carcass, and one of the questions that I get a lot is about the pocket hole assembly and how to keep everything straight and they don't move. So one of the things about pocket holes is when you're screwing them in, sometimes they have a tendency to kind of move and shift a little bit. So what I've always found is just to clamp it until the life is about squeezed out of it. Clamp it very tightly and then work your way down, starting from the edges, and go to the center, and you should have some good results. To level out this little guy, I put on these little blocks here, and that is so I can use a 5/16 T-nut and a 5/16 carriage bolt. So I'll drill into here, tap those in, and be able to screw them in. But this is a great DIY option for a leveling foot. All right, now the cabinet is done. Let's jump into some drawers. Now here's a setup if you're tight on space. With 30-inch cabinets on either side of the saw, you'll come in right under 8 feet of wall space used, and you'll be ready for 8-foot boards. Now of course you'll want to fill in and use that space under the saw and above it, and I'm going to be figuring out what that looks like for my setup on the next video. All right, I got the little base cabinet done, and now I can move to getting the top made. So I need a 75-inch top for this left side, and then I'm gonna move that 60-inch top over there. So I'm gonna cut that down using some plywood, and then I'm gonna trim it with maple, and I'll use pocket screws to attach that from inside, so you won't see any fasteners. All right, I'm going to mill up some rough lumber for the trim. This is soft maple, and I'm going to take it through my planer and joiner and then the table saw to get it down to the thickness. I want to give a big thank you to Jet, the sponsor of today's video. I use their planer and their joiner and their dust collector. It's awesome for milling lumber, and I can get exactly the size dimensions that I need. And you can get those machines from Woodcraft, the other sponsor of today's video. They have over 70 stores around the US, and of course you can shop online. I'll have a link down below in the description of all the items that I use for this and links to everything below. I want to give a big thank you to Jet and Woodcraft for being awesome sponsors of the channel. We've got everything in place for the bases now. Got the top, and now I have to disassemble all of this, clear everything off, get everything out of these cabinets so I can unscrew them from the wall and then start moving around. And that's the nice thing about these being modular, and one of the reasons I designed them that way is so that I can rearrange these how I want. I'm actually gonna move this cabinet down and put the 15-inch drawers right in between them. And then I can make a level line across it and start shimming everything up to that line. All right, so I did run into one small problem here. I have a little kick out over here, so these cabinets are all the way up against the side, and these are just where I had them originally. And when I take the measurement, I'm coming in right at 24 inches. Wouldn't you know it, my saw is 24 and 3/4 inches wide. So I've got to move both of these cabinets down that way, which means I'll have to move the uppers as well later. Make sure you take into account how wide your miter saw is, and if you're going to be upgrading, you might want to go a little bit wider. Now this next setup is probably the best use of space and usability for what you can cut. With two 30-inch cabinets to the left and one to the right, you're just under 10 feet of wall space. But you can go against a wall and still have 6 feet of cutting capacity for those longer boards. And converting those lower cabinet doors into 3 big drawers is my personal favorite. So to level the two cabinets across the span, first of all, I got a little green laser line set up. I'm gonna get the cabinet leveled to where the bottom is. Then I'll put the top on and I'll use a straight edge or my 4-foot level to really span across and make sure that these are in the same plane, because that's really important. I'm adding a piece of maple trim to the back of the original top, and that's because I made the other top an inch deeper just to give me a little bit more room for the infeed, which you'll see probably in the next video when I mount the miter saw. All right, everything is now level. I had to pull out the big guns, literally. I went out and got a 78-inch level because with trying to use a 4-foot level over that span just didn't work great. And getting everything level with those leveling feet is a bit tedious, but it is worth the effort. So just hang in there, use that big level to your advantage, and just keep working it until you get everything just right. Then once you lock everything into the wall, it's not going anywhere. All right, now I can put everything back onto the base cabinets that I moved around, clear the shop vac out, and get started on the upper cabinets. The first one I'm gonna do is a 15-inch upper cabinet, and that is just gonna be a single door with adjustable shelves. For the upper cabinets, I use a 1/2-inch plywood back, and that allows you to put screws anywhere through that back because it gives it a lot of rigidity. So what I need on the sides is a rabbet to hold that in place and make it really strong. So I'm using a dado or rabbet fence. I've got this rabbet fence that I'm going to attach onto the table saw, and then that's going to let me put the rabbet on the side of there, and basically it just makes a groove on the side where that back panel is going to go. It's a pretty good way to make a really solid upper cabinet. I've got the little carcass for the 15-inch, and I'm just going to do shelf pins in this one. I'm going to use a little shelf pin jig and just put the adjustable shelf pin holes in there so that I can just have 2 or maybe even 3 shelves in there, and I'll store large items. I'm going to do more on the other upper cabinets. So I'm going to drill those in. Then after that, we'll just attach a drawer with European hinges, and we'll be good to go. I want to put some finish on the door before I assemble it. I'm using Halcyon Clear, which is a water-based polyurethane from Total Boat, and I'll be using that on all the cabinets. And the doors, I'm not going to do the interiors though, because it's just shop furniture. Now in this example, it might not seem like much, but adding just a 15-inch cabinet to each side from example 3 makes a huge difference. You get more support, and using those 15-inch cabinets for 5 small drawers is great for hand tools, measuring devices, and other little stuff that always seems to get lost. All right, the last cabinets for this section are going to be 2 more of these upper cabinets. They're going to be exactly like the ones I have before. I've got the parts cut already for these, so I'm just going to give you a brief overview while I'm making them, because I literally have an entire video showing you exactly how I make these. So if you want the in-depth details, go ahead and head over to that. The 2 cabinets are set up a little bit differently. The first one is split down the middle with a divider, and then it has adjustable shelves. So after assembly, I went in there and drilled some shelf pin holes on the left and the right side, and then made some little shelves. I also made some racks that get mounted on the door. So I went ahead and used 3 door hinges instead of 2 to carry the extra weight. And then between all those doors, it gives a great amount of storage so that you can put all kinds of different things, and you can obviously mix and match. On the second one, I wanted some adjustable storage cubbies on the bottom. So what I did was made some grooves on the bottom with a dado blade, and then made some panels that I could slide in there. And so basically you can pull it out and adjust it to make it whatever size storage you need for what you're going to store in there. On the top, I just did a regular adjustable shelf, so I drilled some shelf pin holes and used a half-depth shelf. And after getting all the carcasses assembled, I went ahead and finished everything and then got them ready for assembly up on the wall. Now the final setup is boss level mode. If you have an entire back wall of a 2-car garage to dedicate, this setup is amazing. You can work with almost any board size you want. You're gonna have a ton of storage, and it's gonna set you back about a month's salary for all that plywood and drawer slides. But if you get this one, you will have the ultimate setup, and you can choose from any variety and combination of doors and drawers for the best miter saw station setup you can think of. And of course, you can use the modular cabinet plans for all these setups. I'll have a link down below in the description where you can check those out. So it's finally time to hang the upper cabinets, but I ran into a problem. And when I mean a problem, I mean that I am too much of a perfectionist for my own good. This is the 15-inch cabinet, and I was just gonna add this in or add it in between, but it is a lot lighter than the other cabinets, at least for my taste. And I don't wanna be sitting here talking and having mismatched cabinets behind me for the rest of my YouTube career. So I'm gonna grab these, move them down here, and then put all 3 of the new cabinets right here behind me for a nice crisp look. You may think that's overkill, and you'd be right. But I'm gonna do it anyway. Let's go. Yeah! Woo! Oh man, this looks so good. I've got so much storage in these cabinets now, it is insane. But what I'm really excited for next is getting the miter saw installed and getting that all set up. If you want to see the next video in the series, I'll have it queued up for you right there. I'm also going to have a playlist with all the cabinet builds right down there below as well for you to check out all the details on these. I want to give a big thank you to all the folks that have been joining the Builders Club. You can find out more information down below, but I'll see you guys on the next video. We're going to build something awesome.